The hospital hallway was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional shuffle of nurses' shoes. Outside room 314, a middle-aged man sat slumped in a faded blue chair. His eyes were red, and his fingers trembled as they gripped a crumpled paper cup filled with cold coffee. His name was Joseph Carter, a 56-year-old widower who had spent the last 10 years raising his only daughter, Emma, after losing his wife to cancer. Inside the room, a soft murmur broke the silence. Emma, just 12, lay pale against the white sheets, her small frame almost disappearing beneath the blanket. Her face was angelic, framed by curly chestnut hair, but it was tired from fighting a rare autoimmune disease that had stolen her childhood. Joseph stood and quietly pushed open the door. "Hey, sunshine," he whispered. Emma looked up and smiled faintly. "Hi, Daddy." He sat beside her, gently brushing her hair back. "You scared me last night. But the doctor says you're doing a bit better today." Emma's lips curled into a small smile, but then her gaze turned serious. "Daddy, do you think God forgot something?" Joseph blinked. "What do you mean, baby?" She looked out the window, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe God meant to take me, but forgot to take you too. Because Mommy's gone, and I don't have a brother. You're all I have." Joseph's heart shattered. He took her hand, placing it over his. "I'm here because he didn't forget. Maybe he knew you'd need someone to love you more than anything else in this world. And that someone is me." Emma nodded, her eyes glistening. "But Daddy, what will happen if I go?" He couldn't answer. He had thought about that moment 1,000 times but never found a way to accept it. And yet, that question stayed with him, haunted him through each hospital visit, each whispered prayer, each long drive back to their tiny apartment. 3 weeks later, Emma's condition took a turn for the worse. The doctors told Joseph there wasn't much time left. "You might want to bring in family," they said gently. He nodded but didn't move. Because he had no one else. It had always been just him and Emma. But something shifted in Joseph that night. As he sat beside Emma's bed, he remembered all the times he had thought about giving up, how he'd worked late hours as a janitor, cleaned office floors just to pay for her treatments, how he'd skipped meals so she could have hers. And yet, through all of it, he had never once complained. Not because he was strong, but because Emma was worth every sacrifice. That night, while Emma slept, Joseph made a decision. He wrote a post on a parenting forum titled, "My daughter said God forgot to take me, but I don't want to forget the world." In it, he poured his heart out, sharing Emma's story and asking if anyone had a child who needed a father figure. A mentor, a friend, someone who could fill a gap. He wasn't asking for sympathy. He was offering himself, his heart, his time, his love. The post went viral. Within days, emails and messages poured in from across the country. Single mothers, foster children, war veterans with kids, even grandparents raising their grandchildren reached out. They didn't want money. They wanted someone like Joseph, a man who had loved so deeply that he was willing to share that love beyond his loss. Emma passed away quietly one Sunday morning, holding her father's hand. Her last words were soft, "Thank you, Daddy, for staying." Joseph buried his daughter in a small, peaceful cemetery beneath a tree that bloomed with purple flowers in the spring. He placed a carved wooden plaque beside her headstone. It read, "To the girl who taught me that fatherhood doesn't end with loss, it begins with love." In the months that followed, Joseph started a program called Fathers Forgotten by God. A mentoring initiative for children who had lost a parent or never known one. He traveled city to city, spending weekends with kids, teaching them how to fix things, cook simple meals, apply for school scholarships, anything a father might do. At first, it was a few children. Then a few dozen. Then hundreds. In Nebraska, a boy named Aiden who'd never known his father hugged Joseph so tightly he wept. In Georgia, a teenage girl wrote him a letter saying, "You reminded me that good men exist." In California, he was invited to speak at a foster care conference where dozens of teens cheered his name. And through it all, Joseph carried a picture of Emma in his wallet. Years passed. Joseph grew older, a little slower, but never stopped. One day, at a youth camp in Montana, a small girl with auburn braids tugged at his coat. "Mr. Joseph, why do you help kids you don't even know?" Joseph knelt and smiled. "Because once, a little girl told me that God might have forgotten to take me. And I think she was right. He left me here to remember you." That night, under a sky full of stars, Joseph sat on the porch with a few children gathered around him. He told stories, not of pain, but of hope. Of Emma. Of how love doesn't vanish when someone is gone, it multiplies. "I never had a son," he said, eyes shining, "but I have sons and daughters all over this country now. And every single one of them reminds me why I stayed." The children clapped, but more than that, they understood. Because in Joseph, they didn't just see a man who had lost everything. They saw a man who had given everything. And in that giving, he had found something even greater. Love beyond blood. Family beyond name. And a purpose that even grief couldn't erase.